Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. We are on book 3 and this is part 6 of the Law of One Raw Material. And this first session here is mostly about Carla and the psychic attacks that she's getting from the Orion group. And I know all about psychic attacks. My jaw has healed and I still need to get the cracks in my teeth fixed from my most recent attack. And my attacks happen in my sleep, so I don't experience like the cold air that Carla is experiencing, but that's really common, like whenever you watch a movie about ghosts, it's very common for them almost to feel cold. The air all of a sudden gets chilly when a negative entity is in the room or close to you. So that's just really common. And they did talk a little bit about like this is the Orion group making these attacks, and they also talk about the Southern Cross. Now, I've been to Australia, and anyone who's listening from here or has been there, the Southern Cross is a very distinct constellation in the sky, just like Orion is in the northern hemisphere, and they're both negatively orientated. In my opinion, the Orion group is just a lot worse, but they did mention that a couple times in this session. And they're also talking about the differences between third to fifth density and the changes that you would be able to see, and how do you know which one is which. And Ra talks about, think of it as being 7 Earths, but there's 7 Earths inhabiting the same place, but you can experience all of them at once, kind of like because they're vibrating differently. And if you think about a helicopter, their blades are moving so fast you can't really experience any one blade. But if you were, say, sitting on one blade, you would be able to experience all the blades moving fast with you, but then the rest of the world, or the actual helicopter itself, you wouldn't be able to see it. So when you think about vibrations moving at a different speed, at a higher or low vibration, you want to kind of think of it that way. You can only experience one at a time, and the other ones will seem invisible to you. So they were trying to get that a little bit across about what fourth density and fifth density vibrations are experienced as we move from one to the other. And as we move from one to the other, they talk about like, well, if someone is born in third density and we're moving to fourth density, do you have to die and be reincarnated before you can have a fourth density body? Now, this is the fun part because it's very exciting. We are on Earth at the time where you can have dual body activation. And that is why pretty much everyone in the cosmos wanted to be on Earth right now, because it was the greatest opportunity to graduate to fourth density within one lifetime. And that's why a lot of reasons why our population exploded. Everyone wanted to be here. And also, the more, entities that we had here, the greater chance we had to polarize positive. So we wanted this population here for this time. And it's kind of funny, like, no matter, you would take whatever you can get. Like say you are an entity from the Pinwheel Galaxy and you wanted to be on Earth at this time, and it would be like, well, there's not really a lot available. You can put you in Africa, and well, but you're gonna die from starvation at the age of 5. You'd be like, I'll take it. I'll take it. I want to wear the pin saying I was on Earth from the transition to third to fourth density, right? So that's kind of like why our population's exploding. But the people that were born here at this time had dual body. And when I went through my awakening, my dual body got activated. And I think I don't really talk to a lot of people to find out all the different scenarios that they've had, but I'll tell you about mine. So we have 2 hemispheres in our brain, and usually we have one that's more dominating than the other. So if you're right-handed, your left side of the brain is more dominant. So you are more analytical. Like I was a corporate lender working for banks for a time. So I liked finances, I liked numbers, chores. I like problem solving. I like things like that, right? So, and I've been like that my whole life. And after I had my awakening, and even leading up to my awakening, I found myself wanting to be more artistic and more creative with the things that I did in my daily life. And I started painting and drawing. And I had zero talent, and I mean zero talent for any kind of art at all. Like I couldn't draw a stickman properly. And now I'm doing really elaborate paintings out of nowhere. And so there's things like that that I'm noticing, and that's how I know I got like a dual activation. And you're also rising up in your chakra system. So when you activate your green ray body, you're farther away from the red ray, right? And the orange ray, which is where more sexual energy is stored. So you might feel yourself not being very sexual anymore, and you're more interested in activating your higher chakras, and you're active, and you can change the way you also eat. Like I haven't eaten any red meat for almost 12 years now. So but I used to be a total carnivore. I used to eat steaks every week, when I was younger. And I have zero want to eat anything like that. So low vibrational foods, you're suddenly not going to want to eat. So you might look at things like this when they talk about the dual activated body. They didn't really dive into the symptoms that you might get when one gets activated, or if you've gone through an awakening, you might start experiencing things like that. And there's a lot we can talk about what went on in these sessions, but let's just get into it, and I'll let you guys just enjoy it. So here is part 6 of book 3 of the raw material.
The Law of One, Book 3, Session 62, July 13, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Before we begin, may we request that a circle be walked about this instrument, and that then each of the supporting group expel breath forcibly, approximately 2½ feet above the instrument's head, the circle then again being walked about the instrument. Ra, I am Ra. We appreciate your kind cooperation. Please recheck the alignment of perpendicularity, and we will begin. Ra, I am Ra. We communicate now. Questioner, could you tell me what was wrong or what caused the necessity for the re-walking of the circle and the purpose for the expelling of the breath? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument was under specific psychic attack at the time of the beginning of the working. There was a slight irregularity in the words verbalized by your sound complex vibratory mechanisms in the protective walking of the circle. Into this opening came this entity and began to work upon the instrument, now in trance state, as you would call it. This instrument was being quite adversely affected in physical complex distortions. Thus the circle was properly walked. The breath of righteousness expelled the thought form, and the circle again was walked. Questioner, what was the nature of the thought form or its affiliation? Ra, I am Ra. This thought form was of Orion affiliation. Questioner, was the attack successful in creating any further distortion in the instrument's physical complex? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, what is the nature of this distortion? Ra, this thought form sought to put an end to this instrument's incarnation by working with the renal distortions which, although corrected upon time-space, are vulnerable to one which knows the way to separate time-space molding and space-time distortions which are being unmolded, vulnerable as before the, shall we say, healing. Questioner, what detrimental effect has been done? Ra, I am Ra. There will be some discomfort. However, we were fortunate in that this instrument was very open to us and well tuned. Had we not been able to reach this instrument and instruct you, the instrument's physical vehicle would soon be unviable. Questioner, will there be any lasting effect from this attack as far as the instrument's physical vehicle is concerned? Ra, I am Ra. This is difficult to say. We are of the opinion that no lasting harm or distortion will occur. The healer was strong, and the bonds taking effect in the remolding of these renal distortions were effective. It is at this point a question of two forms of the leavings of what you may call a spell or a magic working. The healer's distortions versus the attempt at Orion distortions, the healer's distortions full of love. the Orion distortions also pure in separation. It seems that all is well except for some possible discomfort which shall be attended if persistent. Questioner, was the opening that was made in the protective circle planned to be made by the Orion entity? Was it a specific planned attempt to make an opening, or was this just something that happened by accident? Ra, I am Ra. This entity was, as your people put it, looking for a target of opportunity. The missed word was a chance occurrence and not a planned one. We might suggest in the, shall we say, future, as you measure space-time, as you begin a working, be aware that this instrument is likely being watched for any opportunity. Thus if the circle is walked with some imperfection, it is well to immediately repeat. The expelling of breath is also appropriate, always to the left. Questioner, would you expand on what you just said on the expelling of the breath? I'm not quite sure of what you mean. Ra, I am Ra. The repetition of that performed well at this working is advisable if the circle is walked in less than the appropriate configuration. Questioner, but you mentioned the expelling of the breath to the left, I believe. Would you tell me what you meant by that? Ra, I am Ra. It is as you have just accomplished, the breath being sent above the instrument's head from its right side to its left. Questioner, is there anything that we can do for the instrument after she comes out of the trance to help her recover from this attack? Ra, I am Ra. There is little to be done. You may watch to see if distortions persist and see that the appropriate healers are brought into contact with this mind-body-spirit complex. In the event that difficulty persists, it may not. This battle is even now being accomplished. Each may counsel the instrument to continue its work as outlined previously. Questioner, who would the appropriate healers be, and how would we bring them in contact with the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. There are 4. The difficulty being at all noticed as bodily distortion, the one known as and the one known as. May work upon the instrument's bodily complex by means of the practices which are developing in each entity. Given persistence of distortion, the one known as shall be seen. Given the continued difficulty past the point of one of your cycles called the fortnight, the one known as shall be seen. Questioner, does the instrument know who these people are, and? I don't know who they are. Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, is that the sum total of what we can do to aid the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. We may note that the harmonies and loving social intercourse which prevails habitually in this group create a favorable environment for each of you to do your work. Questioner, what priority, shall I say, does the Orion group place on the reduction of effectiveness or elimination of effectiveness of this group with respect to activities on planet Earth at this time? Can you tell me that? Ra, I am Ra. This group, as all positive channels and supporting groups, is a greatly high priority with the Orion group. This instrument's bodily distortions are its most easily unbound or unloosed distortion, dissolving the mind-body-spirit complex. If the Orion group is successful, this particular group, having learned to be without serious chinks, may we say, in mind and spirit complex vibratory patterns. In other channels other chinks may be more in evidence. Questioner, I'll make this statement and you correct it. The Orion group has an objective of the bringing of the service to self-polarized entities to harvest as great a harvest as possible. This harvest will build their potential or their ability to do work in consciousness, as given by the distortion of the law of one called the law of squares or doubling. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, are there other groups of those who are on the service to self path joined with those of the Orion constellation? For instance, those of Southern Cross, presently working for the same type of harvest with respect to Earth? Ra, I am Ra. These you mention of Southern Cross are members of the Orion group. It is not, shall we say, according to understood wording that a group from various galaxies should be named by one. However, those planetary social memory complexes of the so-called Orion constellation have the upper hand and thus rule the other members. You must recall that in negative thinking there is always the pecking order, shall we say, and the power against power in separation. Questioner, by creating as large a harvest as possible of negatively oriented entities from Earth, then, the social memory complex of the Orion group gains in strength. Am I correct in assuming that this strength then is in the total strength of the complex, the pecking order remaining approximately the same, and those at the top gaining in strength with respect to the total strength of the social memory complex? Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. To the stronger go the greater shares of polarity. Questioner, is this the fourth density group that we are talking about now? Ra, I am Ra. There are fourth and a few fifth density members of the Orion group. Questioner, then is the top of the pecking order fifth density? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, what is the objective? What does the leader, the one at the very top of the pecking order in fifth density of the Orion group, have as an objective? I would like to understand his philosophy with respect to his objectives and plans for what we might call the future or his future. Ra, I am Ra. This thinking will not be so strange to you. Therefore, we may speak through the densities as your planet has some negatively oriented action and sway at this space-time nexus. The early fifth density negative entity, if oriented towards maintaining cohesion as a social memory complex, may in its free will determine that the path to wisdom lies in the manipulation and exquisite propriety of all other selves. It then, by virtue of its abilities and wisdom, is able to be the leader of fourth density beings which are upon the road to wisdom by exploring the dimensions of love of self and understanding of self. These fifth density entities see the creation as that which shall be put in order. Dealing with a plane such as this third density at this harvesting, it will see the mechanism of the call more clearly and have much less distortion towards plunder or manipulation by thoughts, which are given to negatively oriented entities, although in allowing this to occur and sending less wise entities to do this work, any successes redound to the leaders. The fifth density sees the difficulties posed by the light and in this way directs entities of this vibration to the seeking of targets of opportunity such as this one. If fourth density temptations, shall we say, towards distortion of ego, etc., are not successful, the fifth density entity then thinks in terms of the removal of light. Questioner, when the Orion entity who waits us seeking the opportunity to attack is with us here, can you describe his method of coming here, what he looks like, and what his signs are? I know that this isn't too important, but it might give me a little insight into what we are talking about. Ra, I am Ra. Fifth density entities are very light beings, although they do have the type of physical vehicle which you understand. Fifth density entities are very fair to look upon in your standard of beauty. The thought is what is sent for a fifth density entity is likely to have mastered this technique or discipline. There is little or no means of perceiving such an entity, for unlike fourth density negative entities, the fifth density entity walks with light feet. This instrument was aware of extreme coldness in the past diurnal cycle and spent much more time than your normal attitudes would imagine to be appropriate in what seemed to each of you an extremely warm climate. This was not perceived by the instrument, but the drop in subjective temperature is a sign of presence of a negative or non-positive or draining entity. This instrument did mention a feeling of discomfort, but was nourished by this group and was able to dismiss it. Had it not been for a random mishap, all would have been well. For you have learned to live in love and light and do not neglect to remember the one infinite creator. Questioner, then it was a fifth density entity that made this particular attack upon the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, isn't this unusual that a fifth density entity then would bother to do this rather than sending a fourth density servant, shall I say? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Nearly all positive channels and groups may be lessened in their positivity or rendered quite useless by what we may call the temptations offered by the fourth density negative thought forms. They may suggest many distortions towards specific information, towards the aggrandizement of the self, towards the flowering of the organization in some political, social, or fiscal way. These distortions remove the focus from the one infinite source of love and light of which we are all messengers, humble and knowing that we, of ourselves, are but the tiniest portion of the Creator, a small part of a magnificent entirety of infinite intelligence. Questioner, is there something that the instrument could do or we could do for the instrument to eliminate the problems that she has, that she continually experiences of the cold feeling of these attacks? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, would you tell me what we could do? Ra, I am Ra. You could cease in your attempts to be channels for the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Questioner, have I missed anything now that we can do it all to aid the instrument during, before, or after a session or at any time? Ra, I am Ra. The love and devotion of this group misses nothing. Be at peace. There is some toll for this work. This instrument embraces this, or we could not speak. Rest then in that peace and love and do as you will, as you wish, as you feel. Let there be an end to worry when this is accomplished. The great healer of distortions is love. Questioner, I have a question that I didn't properly answer last night for. It has to do with the vibrations of the densities. I understand that the first density is composed of core atomic vibrations that are in the red spectrum, second in the orange, etc. Am I to understand that the core vibrations of our planet are still in the red and that second density beings are still in the orange at this space-time right now, and that each density as it exists on our planet right now has a different core vibration? Or is this incorrect? Ra, I am Ra. This is precisely correct. Questioner, then as the fourth density vibrations come in, this means that the planet can support entities of fourth density core vibration. Will the planet then still be first density core vibration, and will there be second density entities on it with second density vibrations? And will there be third density entities on it with third density vibrations? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. There is energy, but the distortions of the instrument suggest to us it would be well to shorten this working with your permission. Questioner, yes. Ra, you must see the Earth, as you call it, as being 7 Earths. There is red, orange, yellow, and there will soon be a completed green color vibratory locus for fourth density entities, which they will call Earth. During the fourth density experience, due to the lack of development of fourth density entities, the third density planetary sphere is not useful for habitation, since the early fourth density entity will not know precisely how to maintain the illusion that fourth density cannot be seen or determined from any instrumentation available to any third density. Thus in fourth density the red, orange, and green energy nexi of your planet will be activated while the yellow is in potentiation along with the blue and the indigo. May we ask at this time if there be any brief queries? Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra, all is well. You have been most conscientious. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the glory of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator. Adonai. The Law of One, Book 3, Session 63, July 18, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you give me an indication of the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument's vital energies are at the distortion which is normal for this mind-body-spirit complex. The body complex is distorted due to psychic attack in the area of the kidneys and urinary tract. There is also distortion continuing due to the distortion called arthritis. You may expect the psychic attack to be constant as this instrument has been under observation by negatively oriented force for some time. Questioner, is the necessity of the instrument to go to the bathroom several times before a session due to the psychic attack? Ra, I am Ra. In general, this is incorrect. The instrument is eliminating from the body complex the distortion leavings of the material which we use for contact. This occurs variably, sometimes beginning before contact, other workings this occurring after the contact. In this particular working, this entity is experiencing the aforementioned difficulties, causing the intensification of that particular distortion condition. Questioner, I know that you have already answered this question, but I feel it my duty now to ask it each time in case there is some new development, and that is there anything that we can do that we aren't doing to lessen the effectiveness of the psychic attack upon the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. Continue in love and praise and thanksgiving to the Creator. Examine previous material. Love is the great protector. Questioner, could you give me a definition of vital energy? Ra, I am Ra. Vital energy is the complex of energy levels of mind, body, and spirit. Unlike physical energy, it requires the integrated complexes vibrating in a useful manner. The faculty of will can, to a variable extent, replace missing vital energy, and this has occurred in past workings, as you measure time in this instrument. This is not recommended. At this time, however, the vital energies are well nourished in mind and spirit, although the physical energy level is, in and of itself, low at this time. Questioner: would I be correct in guessing that the vital energy is a function of the awareness or bias of the entity with respect to his polarity, or general unity with the creator or creation? Ra, I am Ra. In a non-specific sense, we may affirm the correctness of your statement. The vital energy may be seen to be that deep love of life or life experiences such as the beauty of creation, and the appreciation of other selves and the distortions of your co-creators making which are of beauty. Without this vital energy, the least distorted physical complex will fail and perish. With this love or vital energy or elan, the entity may continue though the physical complex is greatly distorted. Questioner: I would like to continue with the questions about the fact that in fourth density the red, orange, and green energies will be activated, yellow, blue, etc. being in potentiation. Right now, we have green energies activated. They have been activated for the last 45 years. I am wondering about the transition through this period so that the green is totally activated and the yellow is in potentiation. What will we lose as the yellow goes from activation into potentiation? And what will we gain as green comes into total activation? And what is the process? Ra, I am Ra. It is misleading to speak of gains and losses when dealing with the subject of the cycle's ending and the green race cycle, beginning upon your sphere. It is to be kept in the forefront of the faculties of intelligence that there is one creation in which there is no loss. There are progressive cycles for experiential use by entities. We may now address your query. As the green ray cycle or the density of love and understanding begins to take shape, the yellow ray plane or earth, which you now enjoy in your dance, will cease to be inhabited for some period of your spacetime as the spacetime necessary for fourth density entities to learn their ability to shield. Their density from that of third is learned. After this period, there will come a time when third density may again cycle on the yellow ray sphere. Meanwhile, there is another sphere, congruent to a great extent with yellow ray, forming. This fourth density sphere coexists with first, second, and third. It is of a denser nature due to the rotational core atomic aspects of its material. We have discussed this subject with you. The fourth density entities which incarnate at this spacetime are fourth density in the view of experience, but are incarnating in less dense vehicles, due to desire to experience and aid in the birth of fourth density upon this plane. You may note that fourth density entities have a great abundance of compassion. Questioner: at present we have, in third density incarnation on this plane, those third density entities of the planet Earth who have been here for some number of incarnations, who will graduate in the three-way split, either positive polarity remaining for fourth density experience on this planet, the negative polarity harvestable going to another planet, and the rest unharvestable third density going to another third density planet. In addition to these entities, I am assuming that we have here some entities already harvestable from other third density planets, who have come here and have incarnated in third density form to make the transition with this planet into fourth density, plus wanderers. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct, except we may note a small point. The positively oriented harvested entities will remain in this planetary influence, but not upon this plane. Questioner: I think you said there were 60 million wanderers, approximately, here now. Am I correct in that memory? Ra, I am Ra. This is approximately correct. There is some excess to that amount. Questioner: does that number include the harvestable entities who are coming to this planet for the fourth density experience? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner: approximately how many are here now who have come here from other planets who are third density harvestable for fourth density experience? Ra, I am Ra. This is a recent, shall we say, phenomenon, and the number is not yet in excess of 35,000 entities. Questioner: now these entities incarnate into a third density vibratory body. I am trying to understand how this transition takes place from third to fourth density. I will take the example of one of these entities of which we are speaking who is now in a third density body. He will grow older, and then will it be necessary that he die from the third density physical body and reincarnate in a fourth density body for that transition? Ra, I am Ra. These entities are those incarnating with what you may call a double body in activation. It will be noted that the entities birthing these fourth density entities experience a great feeling of, shall we say, the connection and the use of spiritual energies during pregnancy. This is due to the necessity for manifesting the double body. This transitional body is one which will be, shall we say, able to appreciate fourth density vibratory complexes as the instreaming increases without the accompanying disruption of the third density body. If a third density entity were, shall we say, electrically aware of fourth density in full, the third density electrical fields would fail due to incompatibility. To answer your query about death, these entities will die according to third density necessities. Questioner, you are saying, then, that for the transition from third to fourth density for one of the entities with doubly activated bodies, in order to make the transition, the third density body will go through the process of what we call death. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. The third and fourth combination density's body will die according to the necessity of third density mind-body-spirit complex distortions. We may respond to the heart of your question by noting that the purpose of such combined activation of mind-body-spirit complexes is that such entities, to some extent, conscientiously are aware of those fourth density understandings, which third density is unable to remember due to the forgetting. Thus fourth density experience may be begun with the added attraction to an entity oriented towards service to others of dwelling in a troubled third density environment and offering its love and compassion. Questioner, would the purpose in transitioning to Earth prior to the complete changeover then be for the experience to be gained here, before the harvesting process? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. These entities are not wanderers in the sense that this planetary sphere is their fourth density home planet. However, the experience of this service is earned only by those harvested third density entities which have demonstrated a great deal of orientation towards service to others. It is a privilege to be allowed this early in incarnation as there is much experiential catalyst in service to other selves at this harvesting. Questioner, there are many children now who have demonstrated the ability to bend metal mentally, which is a fourth density phenomenon. Would most of these children, then, be the type of entity of which we speak? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, is the reason that they can do this and the fifth density wanderers who are here cannot do it the fact that they have the fourth density body in activation? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Wanderers are third density activated in mind, body, spirit, and are subject to the forgetting which can only be penetrated with disciplined meditation and working. Questioner, I am assuming that the reason for this is, first, since the entities of harvestable third density who very recently have been coming here are coming here late enough, so that they will not affect the polarization through their teachings. They are not infringing upon the first distortion because they are children now and they won't be old enough to really affect any of the polarization until the transition is well advanced. However, the wanderers who have come here are older and have a greater ability to affect the polarization. They must do their affecting as a function of their ability to penetrate the forgetting process in order to be within the first distortion. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. Questioner, it would seem to me that some of the harvestable third density entities are, however, relatively old, since I know of some individuals who can bend metal who are over 50 years old and some others over 30. Would there be other entities who could bend metal for other reasons than having dual activated bodies? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Any entity who, by accident or by careful design, penetrates intelligent energy's gateway may use the shaping powers of this energy. Questioner, now as this transition continues into fourth density activation, in order to inhabit this fourth density sphere it will be necessary for all third density physical bodies to go through the process which we refer to as death. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, are there any inhabitants at this time of this fourth density sphere who have already gone through this process? Is it now being populated? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct only in the very, shall we say, recent past. Questioner, I would assume that this population is from other planets since the harvesting has not yet occurred on this planet. It is from planets where the harvesting has already occurred. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, then are these entities visible to us? Could I see one of them? Would he walk upon our surface? Ra, I am Ra. We have discussed this. These entities are in dual bodies at this time. Questioner, sorry that I am so stupid on this, but this particular concept is very difficult for me to understand. It is something that I am afraid requires some rather dumb questions on my part to fully understand, and I don't think I will ever fully understand it or even get a good grasp of it. Then, as the fourth density sphere is activated, there is heat energy being generated. I assume that this heat energy is generated on the third density sphere only. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is quite correct. The experiential distortions of each dimension are discrete. Questioner, then at some time in the future the fourth density sphere will be fully activated. What is the difference between full activation and partial activation for this sphere? Ra, I am Ra. At this time, the cosmic influxes are conducive to true color green core particles being formed in material, of this nature thus being formed. However, there is a mixture of the yellow ray and green ray environments at this time necessitating the birthing of transitional mind-body-spirit, complex types of energy distortions. At full activation of the true color green density of love, the planetary sphere will be solid and inhabitable upon its own, and the birthing that takes place will have been transformed through the process of time, shall we say, to the appropriate type of vehicle to appreciate in full the fourth density planetary environment. At this nexus, the green ray environment exists to a far greater extent in time-space than in space-time. Questioner, could you describe the difference that you are speaking of with respect to time-space and space-time? Ra, I am Ra. For the sake of your understanding, we will use the working definition of inner planes. There is a great deal of subtlety invested in this sound vibration complex, but it, by itself, will perhaps fulfill your present need. Questioner, I will make this statement and have you correct me. What we have is, as our planet is spiraled by the spiraling action of the entire major galaxy and our planetary system, spirals into the new position, the fourth density vibrations becoming more and more pronounced. These atomic core vibrations begin to create, more and more completely, the fourth density sphere and the fourth density bodily complexes for inhabitation of that sphere. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is partially correct. To be corrected is the concept of the creation of green ray density bodily complexes. This creation will be gradual and will take place beginning with your third density type of physical vehicle and, through the means of bisexual reproduction, become by evolutionary processes, the fourth density body complexes. Questioner, then are these entities of whom we have spoken, the third density harvestable who have been transferred, the ones who then will, by bisexual reproduction, create the fourth density complexes that are necessary? Ra, I am Ra. The influxes of true color green energy complexes will more and more create the conditions in which the atomic structure of cells of bodily complexes is that of the density of love. The mind-body-spirit complexes inhabiting these physical vehicles will be, and to some extent, are, those of whom you spoke and, as harvest is completed, the harvested entities of this planetary influence. Questioner, is there a clock-like face, shall I say, associated with the entire major galaxy so that as it revolves it carries all of these stars and planetary systems through transitions, from density to density? Is this how it works? Ra, I am Ra. You are perceptive. You may see a three-dimensional clock face or spiral of endlessness, which is planned by the logos for this purpose. Questioner, I understand that the logos did not plan for the heating effect in our third density transition into fourth. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct except for the condition of free will which is, of course, planned by the logos as it, itself, is a creature of free will. In this climate an infinity of events or conditions may occur. They cannot be said to be planned by the logos, but can be said to have been freely allowed. Questioner. It would seem to me that the heating effect that takes place on the planet is analogous to a disease in the body and would have as a root, cause the same or analogous mental configuration. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct except that the spiritual configuration, as well as mental biases of your peoples has been responsible for these distortions of the body complex of your planetary sphere. Questioner. When the third density goes out of activation and into potentiation, that will leave us with a planet that is first, second, and fourth density. At that time there will be no activated third density vibrations on this planet. Am I correct in assuming that all third density vibrations on this planet now are those vibrations that compose the bodily complexes of entities such as we are, that is the sum total of third density vibrations on this planet at this time? Ra, I am Ra. This will be the last full query of this working. This instrument has energy left due to transfer, but there is discomfort. We do not wish to deplete this instrument. May we say that this instrument seems in better configuration despite attack than previous workings? To answer your query, this is incorrect only in that in addition to the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density there are the artifacts, thought forms, and feelings which these co-creators have produced. This is third density. May we answer any brief queries as we leave this instrument? Questioner, is there anything that we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. You are conscientious. All is well. We leave you now, my friends, in the glory of the love and the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the infinite Creator. Adonai. The Law of One, Book 3, Session 64, July 26, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you first tell me the condition of the instrument? Ra, I am Ra. It is as previously stated with the exception of a transitory distortion lessening the free flow of vital energy. Questioner, can you tell me what the transitory distortion is? Ra, I am Ra. This is marginal information. Questioner, then we won't question on it. Could you explain the basic principles behind the ritual which we perform to initiate the contact and what I would call the basic white, magical principles of protection? Ra, I am Ra. Due to your avenue of question we perceive the appropriateness of inclusion of the cause of this instrument's transitory vital energy distortion. The cause is a bias towards the yearning for expression of devotion to the one Creator in group worship. This entity was yearning for this protection both consciously in that it responds to the accoutrements of this expression, the ritual, the colors, and their meanings as given by the distortion system of what you call the church, the song of praise, and the combined prayers of thanksgiving and, most of all, that which may be seen to be most centrally magical, the intake of that food which is not of this dimension but has been transmuted into metaphysical nourishment, in what this distortion of expression calls the Holy Communion. The subconscious reason, it being the stronger for this yearning, was the awareness that such expression is, when appreciated by an entity as the transmutation into the presence of the one Creator, a great protection of the entity as it moves in the path of service to others. The principle behind any ritual of the white magical nature is to so configure the stimuli, which reach down into the trunk of mind that this arrangement causes the generation of disciplined and purified emotion or love, which then may be both protection and the key to the gateway to intelligent infinity. Questioner, can you tell me why the slight error made in the ritual starting this communication 2 sessions ago allowed the intrusion by an Orion affiliated entity? Ra, I am Ra. This contact is narrow-band and its preconditions precise. The other self offering its service in the negative path also is possessed of the skill of the swordsman. You deal in this contact with, shall we say, forces of great intensity poured into a vessel as delicate as a snowflake and as crystalline. The smallest of lapses may disturb the regularity of this pattern of energies, which forms the channel for these transmissions. We may note for your information that our pause was due to the necessity of being quite sure that the mind-body-spirit complex of the instrument was safely in the proper light configuration, or density before we dealt with the situation. Far better would it be to allow the shell to become unviable than to allow the mind-body-spirit complex to be, shall we say, misplaced. Questioner, could you describe or tell me of rituals or techniques used by Ra in seeking in the direction of service? Ra, I am Ra. To speak of that which sixth density social memory complexes labor within in order to advance is at best misprision of plane. Communication for much is lost in transmission of concept from density to density, and the discussion of sixth density is inevitably distorted greatly. However, we shall attempt to speak to your query, for it is an helpful one in that it allows us to express once again the total unity of creation. We seek the Creator upon a level of shared experience to which you are not privy, and rather than surrounding ourselves in light, we have become light. Our understanding is that there is no other material except light. Our rituals, as you may call them, are an infinitely subtle continuation of the balancing processes which you are now beginning to experience. We seek now without polarity. Thus we do not invoke any power from without, for our search has become internalized as we become light love and love light. These are the balances we seek, the balances between compassion and wisdom which more and more allow our understanding of experience to be informed that we may come closer to the unity with the one Creator which we so joyfully seek. Your rituals at your level of progress contain the concept of polarization, and this is most central at your particular space-time. We may answer further if you have specific queries. Questioner, would it be helpful if Ra were to describe the techniques that Ra used while Ra was third density to evolve in mind, body, and spirit? Ra, I am Ra. This query lies beyond the law of confusion. Questioner, what about fourth density experience of Ra? Would that also lie beyond the law of confusion? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. Let us express a thought. Ra is not elite. To speak of our specific experiences to a group which honors us is to guide to the point of a specific advising. Our work was that of your people, of experiencing the catalyst of joys and sorrows. Our circumstances were somewhat more harmonious. Let it be said that any entity or group may create the most splendid harmony in any outer atmosphere. Ra's experiences are no more than your own. Yours is the dance at this space-time in third density harvest. Questioner, the question was brought up recently having to do with possible records left near, in, or under the Great Pyramid at Giza. I have no idea whether this would be of benefit. I will just ask if there is any benefit in investigating in this area. Ra, I am Ra. We apologize for seeming to be so shy of information. However, any words upon this particular subject create the possibility of infringement upon free will. Questioner, in a previous session you mentioned the gateway of magic for the adept occurring in 18-day cycles. Could you expand on that information, please? Ra, I am Ra. The mind-body-spirit complex is born under a series of influences, both lunar, planetary, cosmic, and in some cases, karmic. The moment of the birthing into this illusion begins the cycles we have mentioned. The spiritual or adept cycle is an 18-day cycle and operates with the qualities of the sine wave. Thus there are a few excellent days on the positive side of the curve, that being the first 9 days of the cycle, precisely the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th, when workings are most appropriately undertaken. Given that the entity is still without total conscious control of its mind-body-spirit distortion reality. The most interesting portion of this information, like that of each cycle, is the noting of the critical point wherein passing from the 9th to the 10th and from the 18th to the 1st days, the adept will experience some difficulty, especially when there is a transition occurring in another cycle at the same time. At the nadir of each cycle, the adept will be at its least powerful, but will not be open to difficulties in nearly the degree that it experiences at critical times. Questioner, then to find the cycles we would take the instant of birth and the emerging of the infant from the mother into this density, and start the cycle at that instant and continue it through the life. Is this correct? Ra, I am Ra. This is mostly correct. It is not necessary to identify the instant of birthing. The diurnal cycle upon which this event occurs is satisfactory for all but the most fine workings. Questioner, am I correct in assuming that whatever magic the adept would perform at this time would be more successful or, shall we say, more to his design than that performed at less opportune times in the cycle? Ra, I am Ra. This cycle is an helpful tool to the adept, but as we said, As the adept becomes more balanced, the workings designed will be dependent less and less upon these cycles of opportunity, and more even in their efficacy. Questioner: I have no ability to judge. At what point the level of abilities of the adept would be reached to be independent of this cyclical action? Can you give me an indication of what level of adeptness that would be necessary in order to be so independent? Ra: I am Ra. We are fettered from speaking specifically due to this group's work, for to speak would seem to be to judge. However, we may say that you may consider this cycle in the same light as the so-called astrological balances within your group. That is, they are interesting but not critical. Questioner: Thank you. I read that recent research has indicated that the normal sleep cycle for entities on this planet occurs 1 hour later each diurnal period, so that we have a 25-hour cycle instead of a 24-hour cycle. Is this correct, and if so, why is this? Ra: I am Ra. This is in some cases correct. The planetary influences from which those of Mars experience memory have some effect upon these third-density physical, bodily complexes. This race has given its genetic material to many bodies upon your plane. Questioner: Thank you. Ra mentioned the ones and in a previous session. These are members of what we call our medical profession. What is the value of modern medical techniques in alleviating bodily distortions with respect to the purpose for these distortions, and what we might call karma? Ra: I am Ra. This query is convoluted. However, we shall make some observations in lieu of attempting one coherent answer, for that which is allopathic among your healing practices is somewhat two-sided. Firstly, you must see the probability that each and every allopathic healer is in fact an healer. Within your cultural nexus, this training is considered the appropriate means of perfecting the healing ability. In the most basic sense, any allopathic healer may be seen to, perhaps, be one whose desire is service to others in alleviation of bodily complex and mental emotional complex distortions, so that the entity to be healed may experience further catalyst over a longer period of what you call the life. This is a great service to others when appropriate due to the accumulation of distortions toward wisdom and love, which can be created through the use of the space-time continuum of your illusion. In observing the allopathic concept of the body complex as a machine, we may note the symptomology of a societal complex, seemingly dedicated to the most intransigent desire for the distortions of distraction, anonymity, and sleep. This is the result rather than the cause of societal thinking upon your plane. In turn, this mechanical concept of the body complex has created the continuing proliferation of distortions towards what you would call ill health due to the strong chemicals used to control and hide bodily distortions. There is a realization among many of your peoples that there are more efficacious systems of healing, not excluding the allopathic, but also including the many other avenues of healing. Questioner: Let us assume that a bodily distortion occurs within a particular entity who then has a choice of seeking allopathic aid, or experiencing the catalyst of the distortion and not seeking correction of the distortion. Can you comment on the two possibilities for this entity and his analysis of each path? Ra: I am Ra. If the entity is polarized towards service to others, analysis properly proceeds along the lines of consideration of which path offers the most opportunity for service to others. For the negatively polarized entity, the antithesis is the case. For the unpolarized entity, the considerations are random and most likely in the direction of the distortion towards comfort. Questioner: I understand brought a four-toed Bigfoot cast by here the other day. Could you tell me which form of Bigfoot that cast was? Ra: I am Ra. We can. Questioner: I know that it is totally unimportant, but as a service to I thought that I should ask that. Ra: I am Ra. This entity was one of a small group of thought forms. Questioner: He also asked, I know this is also unimportant, why there were no Bigfoot remains found after the entities have died on our surface. Could you also answer this? I know this is of no importance, but as a service to him I ask it. Ra: I am Ra. You may suggest that exploration of the caves, which underlie some of the western coastal mountain regions of your continent, will one day offer such remains. They will not be generally understood if this culture survives in its present form long enough, in your time measurement, for this probability-possibility vortex to occur. There is enough energy for one more full query at this time. Questioner, in the healing exercises, when you say examine the sensations of the body, do you mean those sensations available to the body via the five senses or in relation to the natural functions of the body, such as touching, loving, sexual sharing, and company? Or are you speaking of something else altogether? Ra, I am Ra. The questioner may perceive its body complex at this moment. It is experiencing sensations. Most of these sensations, or in this case, nearly all of them, are transient and without interest. However, the body is the creature of the mind. Certain sensations carry importance due to the charge or power which is felt by the mind upon the experience of this sensation. For instance, at this space-time nexus one sensation is carrying a powerful charge and may be examined. This is the sensation of what you call the distortion towards discomfort due to the cramped position of the body complex during this working. In balancing, you would then explore this sensation. Why is this sensation powerful? Because it was chosen in order that the entity might be of service to others in energizing this contact. Each sensation that leaves the aftertaste of meaning upon the mind, that leaves the taste within the memory, shall be examined. These are the sensations of which we speak. May we answer any brief queries before we leave this instrument? Questioner, is there anything that we could do to make the instrument more comfortable or to improve the contact? Ra, I am Ra. Continue to consider the alignments. You are conscientious and aware of the means of caring for the instrument in its present distortions having to do with the wrists and hands. As always, love is the greatest protection. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the glorious love and joyful light of the infinite Creator. Go forth, then, rejoicing in the power and in the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai.
Okay, that was another long few sessions, and I'll just really quick just make a few comments that I know it's going to be talked about later on, especially in book 4, talking about astrology and how it really is connected to us at the time of our birth, because we were in this cosmic dance. And when we were born, where we were born, really has a lot to do with it. And a lot of people they just don't believe in astrology. I mean, it's hard to believe in things that you don't understand. But I dove really deep into astrology because I thought it would make me a better tarot card reader. But astrology is such a huge topic. You can spend a lifetime studying it, and always are in the mode of discovery. There's just so much going on. So we're going to look forward to that. And it was just funny at the very end there, they mentioned Bigfoot and how we will be discovering the bones of Bigfoot. And I know that they do get discovered, but they also get hidden and destroyed pretty quickly. So they are being discovered. We just, not the common public knows about it. Just like some of the bones of the giants that roamed, they're all destroyed or hidden, but we will discover them later on. So it was just really funny how they got into that just a little bit. So anyway, I won't say too much at the end here. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I will quickly get this up online, and I'll see you in the next one. It'll be part 7 of book 3 of the raw material.